Hello you guys, and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and thanks for taking a look at some of our Iceland vlog footage as well as some of the photos from our trip. Now, since you have seen kind of an overview there with the image format, I wanted to talk through briefly about the things that we did and what we saw, just in case you're also interested in more detail about what it is that you saw in the montage there at the beginning, or if you yourself maybe are interested in planning a trip to Iceland. And I'm technically not filming this in Iceland. This is actually a little courtyard we have at our Airbnb in Venice, but I thought this was a nice calm spot, and I'm a little bit behind on the editing of the photos and that sort of thing, so I'm putting it together now. Now, just briefly to describe, since this is the first travel vlog, with this first part of the trip, it is myself, Jake, who you've both seen a lot in videos, my parents, and my sister Lizzie. So that is the 5 of us who are traveling here. We got in around 6:30 in the morning, and we picked up our rental car, which I think is the best way to get around Iceland, especially if you enjoy more of the nature sites. We did go into Reykjavik, but we weren't there for very long. We were mostly in the south part of Iceland, checking out some of the other sites there. So we picked up the rental car and we went to the Blue Lagoon first.
Hello.
Hi. Hello there.
Now, the Blue Lagoon is fairly pricey. I think they've understood that they can have kind of a monopoly on the area, so it's a little pricey, but definitely was well worth it. We really enjoyed it, and especially after a long flight, it was just very relaxing. After that, we went into Reykjavik, and since we were only going to spend a short time in Reykjavik, we tried to make the most of it. We did find several restaurants that had some good vegan options. We ended up settling on this place called Pricked, maybe, and it has a lot of burgers and also some like breakfasty kind of food, so we ended up eating there. Jake and I both had they had two vegan burger offerings, and they were very good. I will say, with Iceland, since food prices tend to be more expensive, we did do a lot of grocery store meals. But anyway, we did that for lunch, as well as visited the top of the church. I'm probably gonna butcher the name, but Hallgrímskirkja, maybe, and they have a beautiful lookout point. So since we were in Reykjavik for such a short time, I thought it was a great way to take a look at the surrounding city from above. Then we drove out to our Airbnb, which was this cabin. It was a little tougher to find, but gorgeous scenery, and it worked very well for us since it had more bedrooms than a lot of the cabins did. On our second day, we did the Golden Circle, I guess kind of like the Golden Square, because we threw in visiting Kerrid, which is the volcanic crater. Again, maybe my pronunciations are going to be off on a few of these, but we visited this volcanic crater. This one does have a small admission fee, whereas most of the national parks are free. So we went there. You can hike around and also down to the bottom. Since Jake and I were here about 3 years ago, they put in a bunch of steps along the walking path to make it safer, especially going down to the lake. So that was really nice, because we went down to the lake before, but it was a little treacherous. So gorgeous views there. Our next stop then was Thingvellir National Park, which is probably the biggest park to go to. And we enjoyed walking around, a lot of beautiful sights, beautiful nature. There's a small waterfall there as well, so definitely gorgeous. Then after that, we went to Geyser. We ended up eating most of our lunch there, and then we looked at the geyser, and the geyser itself was very cool. It erupts quite often, so you don't have to wait very long. And there's other smaller geysers there as well. But I think the coolest part for us was when we were actually looking at like the bubble that sort of formed right before the geyser erupted. And that was something I hadn't noticed before when I was there. So that was really cool. And then after that point, we went to the Gullfoss Waterfall, which is a massive waterfall, gorgeous, stunning. It reminds me a lot of Niagara Falls, although I think I might like it better, but it was still very cool nonetheless. As far as some good eating options, Jake and I were both surprised how vegan friendly all the little cafes were at these different sites. Kerrid or Curio doesn't have any cafe or anything like that, but the other 3 do. And so at every single place they had vegan options, whether it was a sandwich or soups, or even there was a vegan apple pie at the Gullfoss Waterfall. So definitely, if you're concerned about vegan options in Iceland, you don't have to worry, at least in the parts we were near the Golden Circle. Then we headed home after a busy day, but we were up much later that day since we had gotten some better sleep from the day before, and we stayed up for the midnight sun, which was so cool, and gorgeous sunset around like after midnight. It's midnight right now. We are up at midnight and this is the sky. It's pretty epic. Now it's time for bed. And then our next and last full day in Iceland, we headed out to Vik along the south coast because there are several of the black sand beaches. So those were really gorgeous. It was definitely chilly. It was chilly during a lot of our parts of the trip, but it was lovely to be on the beaches and see the really cool rock formations. And there also, since we were out in Vik, there were some different vegan food options we could have done, but just because a lot of the places were very expensive, we ended up going to the grocery store again. I know I didn't really share too much about the grocery store food on the first couple days. There's several different grocery store chains in Iceland. I would recommend the Kronen, especially if you are someone who has, you know, special diets or like a vegan thing. We went to Bonus while we were in Reykjavik, which is the cheapest grocery store, and they had a lot of good products, but we found that the Kronen had many more vegan products. So while we were in Vik, actually, we did a picnic lunch in the car because it was cold, but we did the picnic lunch, and they had like a brand called BioLife, which makes vegan cheese. It's very good. We can't get it where we are in the US, so a little jealous. And then like some crackers, hummus. We, I think, got some fruit as well. So it was a very nice little snack there. And then we ended up doing pasta for dinner both nights with like a marinara sauce and sauteed some veggies. So that was definitely a great option and much more affordable than going out to eat. So we did that while we were in Vik, but also visited one of my favorite spots, which is when you kind of climb up the hill, there's a church there. And when you park there and you walk up this hill, gorgeous views of Vik, and it's just a pretty spectacular place. Very small city. The longer story is that I had originally seen a picture from National Geographic. It was a gorgeous picture, and I had seen it was in Iceland, but I never thought I'd actually go there. So then the fact that we did and was able to kind of recreate that photo was very cool. So it was definitely something I wanted to do when we went back again as well. After Vik, then we drove back to the Airbnb, but along the way stopped at two of the very famous waterfalls there, Skogfoss and Skogfoss. Again, probably butchered those names. They were very lovely. We actually saw some rainbows there, and we were able to walk behind one of the waterfalls, so that was a pretty neat experience. We got very wet, but it was pretty cool to be able to do that. And then we ended up heading back to our place, where we then flew out the next morning to go to Krakow, Poland. That's just a little summary of what we did. In terms of travel tips, I definitely recommend renting a car. Purchasing your ticket early can be very helpful. So for us, we were able to go to Iceland very cheaply. Each flight cost $209, which compared to standard US flights, that's actually cheaper than a lot of one-ways. We went to Colorado this past year for seeing Jake's family over the winter holiday, and the one-way to Colorado was $209 as well. So it's just funny that you can go, you know, to another country that's a much longer flight for the same price. So that was kind of interesting. I also think Iceland's a great place to start, especially if you're coming from the US and you haven't traveled much internationally before. Very easy to get around navigationally. It's not too crowded, so especially if you like nature sites, I think you'd really enjoy it. And everyone speaks English very easily. We never had any problems with understanding. So that's definitely something that makes it easier. Also, Iceland Air offers stopovers, so if you book another flight with Iceland Air, maybe continuing to another European country, which is, I believe, what most of them would be, at least coming from the US, you can book a stopover of up to 7 days with them, which essentially would give you your Iceland trip for free. Now, for us, when I was crunching the numbers on it, we weren't actually planning to go to any of the other Iceland Air destinations, and we were able to get the tickets very cheaply. I was purchasing them about 9 months before, but we were able to get tickets very cheaply, so it didn't make sense for us, but that is something to keep in mind if you might be wanting to go there. So you might even be able to have a free trip there if you're purchasing tickets with Iceland Air somewhere else. As far as vegan options, if you're concerned, don't be. There's lots of great options there, but I would really suggest doing more of the grocery store route to help save money, especially if you are in areas outside of Reykjavik where the restaurants that are there might be a lot more expensive. Otherwise, we had a really lovely time, and I hope this style of a travel vlog slash recap was helpful. During these first episodes, I didn't end up vlogging a ton since being on camera is something that I'm most comfortable with, but not necessarily everyone in my family. So I am doing more of this strategy for these vlogs and travel recaps when we're all together. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Oh. They're just looking at me.